It's not a normal world. It's Taskmaster World, and welcome back to Taskmaster World, and welcome back to Taskmaster World, the podcast. And I should have had this information with me earlier, but the last time we did an episode of the podcast was only 13 days ago. So how lucky am I? I missed a potluck over here, and today. And if you're entertained in the world of the Tom Mason, just in case anyone actually cares, you will have seen either on Saturday, which is today when you're watching this, but not when I'm filming it. You might have seen me do an interview with someone else on the third channel, the Weird Side, but it might have been Friday. I'm in the middle of editing it as of Friday, the 4th of November. But anyway, we move on because we have an amazing guest. She's best known for Taskmaster New Zealand Series 3, and one of the best series. There's only been 3, so we'll find out why Series 1 isn't the best series anymore, because Series 2 and 3 are the best. It's the one and only Justine Smith.
Kia ora tātou. Hello, everybody.
Hello. So let's start at the very beginning. How did you get into this wonderful industry we call comedy?
Well, I was a bit of a drifter. I had been to art school and I'd lived in Japan for a while, and I came back and I was waitressing, as I used to do a lot. And the owner of the cafe dared me to do an open mic. There was a thing on the menu. She was great. There was a thing on the menu. It listed all your normal stuff like bacon and eggs, blah, blah, blah. And there's a thing called slap on the head, which was free. And if anyone asked what a slap on the head was, you're allowed to uppercut them, like lightly, but you're allowed to just give them a little one of those. And it was the best waitress job I ever had, because you got to hit people. But the chick who ran that dared me to go and do an open mic stand-up night. And I went a couple of times and chickened out. And then I finally did it, only because she came backstage and literally opened the curtain and pushed me out onto the stage and shut the curtain behind me. And it was great, and I it sounds really cheesy, but, I just went, oh my God. And it was good. It went well.
Yeah.
And people laughed. And I was just like, it was just, I was like, oh my God, thank God I found something that I want to do. I just knew straight away that was going to be me. Yeah. I mean, I had to keep waitressing for a long time as well.
Yeah.
But it made the waitressing okay, because at nighttime I was living the dream. And getting paid in like beers and thank yous probably back then.
Yeah. And you were saying that you lived in Japan. What was it like living in Japan? Because Japan's like a country of mystery.
It is. Japan. Everybody should visit. It is. I am biased. My sister lives there, and I learned Japanese in high school. So I lived there for a year. So I'm rusty, but I can get by. But Japan has this charm like no other country. It's really westernized, whether that's a good or bad thing, but so it's really easy to find your way around all the subway. It's really easy, and people are so welcoming. And oh my God, if you get lost in a little alleyway of bars in Japan, you are just going to have the best time of your life. It doesn't matter if you can speak Japanese or not, but a little bit helps.
Yeah, and Japan, as well as it turns out, Alex on are very good at coming up with their TV shows, because Japan obviously have the famous one of Candy Not Candy, which is always the weirdest one, where you're eating food, you're not sure whether it's going to be that icing or it's going to be
totally. And Japan has those weird game shows where you think somebody could die.
Yeah. And so as I mentioned there, Alex on, I slipped him in just to move us back to where we were heading. And had you actually wait? Yes, I am right on the right track. Had you actually seen the original UK iteration of Taskmaster before you had said yes to the New Zealand version?
Every single episode. I was a huge, and remain a huge Taskmaster fan. I think it is just the greatest show. Yeah. And I really, 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 when I heard it was coming to New Zealand, right from the get-go, excuse me, right through seasons 1 and 2, I campaigned to be on it.
Wow.
I said, let me on it. I got my acting agents to do it. I got my comedy manager to do it. I did it personally. I was like, let me at it. And I kind of knew that I would be on it.
Yeah.
But when I found out that I was going to be on it, when I got the call, and I'd given myself, I wanted it so badly, Tom. But as a comic, I'd learned to like hang on quite lightly to things, you know, and not be mad and not, you know, be jealous and be shit. Oh, thanks, babes. So I was ready to, you know, be cool with it, but secret, I was going, oh, please. And I got the call, and I'd given it till 5 o'clock on that Friday. And I was actually on an opposing network on another panel show, and I got the call at the desk, which I shouldn't have taken. And the producer asked me to be on the show, and I just burst into tears. And everyone thought that someone had died, but because I couldn't say, because it's so secret, and you take that, you know, we're like, when I told no one. Well, you know, pretty much no. You know, but I had to like come up with a story while it was claiming it was good news, but I couldn't say, and it was like such a shambles. But yeah, I was so rapt to get on it.
Yeah, and so as you said there, you're a super fan, which is always good. Have you heard the you're probably going to say yes, but have you heard the Taskmaster podcast? The one.
No, yes, I'm aware of it. I don't really listen to podcasts much, but that would be one that I would. That's a terrible way to get out of that.
Well, Ed Gamble, who is who hosts it, is currently as of the time of recording, he is poaching you lot to do it. So he is getting New Zealand contestants.
Ah, cool.
On it.
In that case, I'll have a listen.
Because he's either doesn't want to repeat and he wants to keep people entertained, because there's like nearly 13 versions of the show.
Yeah.
Now, have you seen any other version other than just the UK version?
Yeah. Oh, what's that one called? Is it Norwegian or something?
Yes, it's I always mispronounce. I think it's called Kongen Befala.
Befala, yeah, I've watched that.
Yeah, that's a really.
It's good. To me, it hasn't got quite the same sparkle, but I think you just can't compare anything to the UK. I don't believe, because Greg Davies and he's just. I mean, they're just so fabulous, you know.
Yeah. Well, the Swedish one is also quite good, and Babin Larsson, who's the Swedish Taskmaster, I've interviewed her. She's very nice, but in the UK, and I don't know when it'll come available. Alex Orr made a program called the Horn Section television program.
Yeah, we've just this morning watched the ad for it.
Yeah, well, it's real. I've seen the whole program because it came out yesterday on L4 in the UK on Thursday. For anyone that cares, it's really good because it makes you see Taskmaster in a different light. What makes it even funnier is that they never show which comedians or panelists are on it when they mock filmed it as a joke. They like crop it, so you only see Greg and Alex, so that if they were filming an actual series that hasn't aired yet during that, then you wouldn't be spoiled, which is really interesting. But with your series, your amazing series that has got a plethora of famous moments and famous catchphrases, but how did you come up with your series outfit?
Well, I am not sporty, which will be a huge shock to everybody, but I wanted something that was kind of 80s sporty. My vibe usually is I'm a bit rockabilly, you know, I like the you know, pinny hair and all that stuff. So together with the amazing wardrobe woman who's just incredible, we just kind of came up with that outfit, which was, and also I had a netting skirt under that underskirt, and so one of the crew goes to me, she goes, do you think that's going to be like practical for all the tasks? And I said, if there's a task I can't do in a skirt, I'm not doing it. Like I'm not. I would diva out and then go, oh my god, and I ended up like jumping over a fence and that skirt shit. But so I just wanted to look cute, but I wanted to look kind of sporty.
Yeah. And I was interviewing Josh Thompson.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love Josh Foster.
As you do on your casual Friday evening, and I had asked him a question about the I'm gonna probably mispronounce it, but the doppelganger,
Doppelganger.
yeah, good doppelganger task, and he and he
Yeah.
and it was very interesting of how he had managed to get Ray O'Leary involved, even though Ray O'Leary should be on Taskmaster full stop anyway.
Look, nobody thinks that more than us.
Uh,
And my feeling is it's going to happen.
yeah, when series 4 gets funded, because normally it takes forever for anyone to find out, then it should happen. But how did you get your doppelganger involved? Because as you can probably clearly tell that you look nothing like your doppelganger. But how did you get your doppelganger involved?
So I was, after we got handed that doppelganger task at the Taskmaster house, I was driving home and I was like, who can I get? And then I thought what would be really funny is to get some really tiny little skinny gymnast chick and for me to actually think that I look like her or something. And then I thought there's this news presenter here called Samantha Hayes and she's red hair and she is stunning. I could get her in kind of same gag. And then I went, what about if I just got a drag queen to, do it? And so I didn't personally know any drag queens, but I know lots of people in that kind of community. So I reached out to a mutual friend of ours and he gave me a list of these drag queens and to approach, who he goes, yeah, just ask, that's cool. And I didn't even ask Buckwheat, who ended up doing it, because to me, she is like the most amazing drag queen in New Zealand. I went, she'll be too busy, whatever. And then the other two that I asked couldn't do it. And so I reached out to her and she, oh my God, I ended up going round to her house and those outfits are all her. Like she went, we're going to put you in this. And I was like, what? She had matching stuff in different colors. It was like the best day of my life. I mean, I just love to be a drag queen. And so I put so much effort in and she looked so great. So I was really proud of that.
Yeah, and it was a big shock to me because I wasn't expecting what I saw, but after seeing that task, it made sense why you were all wearing odd clothes that made you.
Yeah, I know. I mean, because calm down. I mean, walk out. Everyone's going, God, she's a bit overexcited to be on the telly. Look at her. I'm like, yes, like I was secretly loving it.
Yeah. And with the show being, it's like you film so much and you only have so little time. And when I asked Paul, he couldn't remember a single thing. No, no, knowing him. So what was your favourite task that you did, but that never actually made it onto the telly box?
Oh, so easy. So we had to really early on, I think the first couple of days of filming, because filming's nuts, it's quite intense. I arrived at filming going, there'll be 2 or 3 tasks a day. I can have lunch. It was like, bam, you are working. Anyway, so one of them was to write a lullaby.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm quite good with words and stuff. And so I wrote this great lullaby. I got Paul playing on this little piano. I dressed Paul up like a baby. I got into the cot with him. It was super weird and super awkward, cradling Paul like a baby to my bosom. And he's really uncomfortable. I'm pretty uncomfortable. I think and so I thought that I was like, I can't wait. And so I guess it's just that they don't have time or whatever. Also, there are a couple that didn't make it that I did really well in, so I was like, oh. But you just have to hang on to that shit lightly,
Yeah. And with the show being like, oh, here's a bunch of comedians, did you know any of these bunch of comedians before you had filmed the show?
Oh, mate, this is the thing. This is New Zealand. So basically, I work with Josh and Paul all the time on another show called 7 Days. We tour together.
Yeah.
Chris Parker and I are just deeply in love with each other. Kuda was the one that I didn't know as well as the others because Kuda is more of a actor and improv than on the stand-up circuit, you know, although she's a brilliant stand-up. She just does other stuff as well. And so she's the one I kind of didn't know. And she was, I mean, it was just a pleasure to work with her. She is so funny, man. Like the she just cracks me up constantly.
Yeah. And you were saying that you did 7 days. And what's really interesting about 7 days is that because 7 days is supposed to be the New Zealand version of Mock the Week. That was what it's supposed to compare to. It's 7 days has now outlived Mock the Week because as of last week, the week before the show ended its 7-year run, and so now 7 days has now beaten it.
Yeah.
And will probably survive longer. And 7 days is as good as Mock the Week.
Yep, for sure. I think, you know, in New Zealand, we've got over that little problem we have of not feeling good enough or not important because, you know, politically and geographically, we're just like whatever, which is fine with me at the moment. But I think we've got over that now. And I think New Zealand trusts New Zealand comedy now, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. And with the news of Taskmaster Australia filming in New Zealand, are you excited for this? And is it something you would like a cameo in? Because obviously they can shoehorn in whoever they want in it.
Love a cameo. I also made that perfectly clear. I was like, can I please be David Correos? Because he was against the wall, which I could not believe people walked past. Look, I went on there's David. He was literally just to the left of the door. When I saw that people literally didn't see him, I just was like, man.
He's hard not to miss.
Yeah, he's big. You know, with love, you know, he was just this big painted guy.
He sticks out like a sore thumb.
He did. He's great too.
He is, and he's also the one that when this new series came out, they were all wondering who is the new David Krause because he was that bonkers. And I think I might have worked out it was Josh Thompson because Josh was panicking every time he hit one of the mannequins.
But was he? Because that's the thing, like, because I've worked with Josh a lot, and I'm like, yes, outwardly he's a shambles, but look who ended up winning.
Yeah, and then so then with the show having all these tasks and then on DC, do you on retrospective, on look back at it, do you regret any of the tasks you've done? Do you look at a task and go, "Ooh, I wish I hadn't done that"?
Oh my God, all of them. But you have to just be prepared for that. Also, there was times where, you know, I mean, and I knew, I mean, the only thing my husband said to me going into Taskmaster was, calm down at the beginning, read the task, make sure you know what it means. And I was like, of course I'll do that. And I think I did that once. Like, I was really impulsive. I knew I was going to be like that, and there'd be times when I'd be driving home. I don't live very far from where the Taskmaster house is. And I'd get about halfway home, there's this particular set of lights, is usually where I go, oh my God, and realize what I should have done, and what the task meant. I'd be like, oh no, oh no. And so, you know, I knew though that I would be like that. And I'm not, to be perfectly honest, I'm not that competitive. And so I did want to win, but I don't really care.
Yeah. And it's because you've seen every episode, it has, you have that like sort of like in noise thinking, what is it like? Some when you watch it back, some comedians think, oh, there's something under this table, but then if you've seen enough of the program, you know that you're gonna find something in a floorboard that you've sort of missed.
Honestly, that one where Chris got the extra tasks that said he had to do one task wet. I saw that envelope. I walked past that envelope next to that duck 3 or 4 times that day, and I went, oh, someone's left a task envelope there, and I didn't pick it up. Honestly, that's what's so good about that show, is that though that it whilst it's fun and it's a bit silly and humiliating, it's so interesting how people go about things.
Yeah.
You know, and what, you know, it's amazing when I went, that did not occur to me at all, you know, and it's interesting.
and the show is now a phenomenon because a few weeks ago, the Alex Avalon, who produced the show, had thrown a Taskmaster party in France where majority of all the Taskmasters and all the assistants all got together and had a few. So Paul met Alter and Finley. He met them all, and
Amazing.
and they all had photos behind a massive giant duck that's apparently in front of Alex's front garden. It's like
That's
giant.
amazing.
It's like it's probably bigger than Alex itself. Which is just well because
he's quite tall, eh? He's actually quite a tall dude. It's just Greg Davies is a giant.
Yeah. I think Greg Davies is almost taller than Richard Osmond.
You reckon? Yeah, I reckon he's huge, eh?
Yeah, we've got a problem with breeding too many tall people.
Yeah. And enormous. Like he's not fat or anything. He's just a big unit of a dude, eh?
Yeah, and with the show having like 10 episodes or whatever, in studio you do all these prize tests. How did you come up with the prize test? Because that's going to be more trickier than doing the task because you have so long to think about it, and then you have to worry: do you want that to get rid of? Do you care about that item?
Yeah. So yeah, you just have to. For me, it was more about what can I take in that I've got a good story about that I can have a laugh with, and someone can potentially goof off with at the end. So, it was about making good TV, really. Even though Jeremy didn't want to go to Disneyland with me, rude.
Yeah, and so we shall move on to talk about Taskmaster Series 3, NZ Series 3, Episode 4. There we go. Hopefully you enjoyed that jingle there. See, that's what's good about Taskmaster. The home section don't give two bananas about copyright. Get a lot of trouble. But yeah, so hopefully the home section actually watch the stuff people make. So the prize task was the best weekend, which I quite liked it because it's more of a concept of it's not really an item. It's more of here's there's going to be a story to it, and by this time, because we're 4 episodes in at this point, we'd known you would love Disney and you have some, I wouldn't say weird, but some people might, obsession with Disney. I don't know who would say it was weird, not me.
I don't know. It sounds like you would say it was weird.
I wouldn't, because or else I would have upset international fans of Doctor Who because Disney Plus is owned. Is going to
yeah, look out.
So I'd rather not insult them. But do you how often do you go to Disneyland then if you can afford just to give it away?
Yeah, it is a lot. I mean, we just got back from LA and we're like, well, we won't be doing that again until our dollar strengthens because it was pretty bad exchange rate. We've been, I think, together, we've been to all of them in the world, like the 2 in China, 1 in Japan, 1 in France, 2 in US. And I guess it just became a thing because we got engaged there. Like Dan popped the question on this blue teacup. It was really romantic. And so, we don't have kids, and so we can just do what we want. And we just kind of incorporate it into all of our travels because it's really good fun. And yeah, we're a little bit, I mean, I know you can see a little bit of the stuff behind me, but we're pretty nuts in our house. Like there's a lot of Disney stuff.
Yeah, well, my mum really likes Disney, and it's either a birthday or Christmas, she bought well, she should have been gifted it, but she bought it herself. She bought the massive Disney Lego castle.
Oh, amazing. We've not got that. We've got a Yoda and some other stuff. But did she do the castle by herself?
Yeah, so she built it on a whilst watching the telly.
Your mum is amazing.
Yeah, and she also got the mini Steamboat Willie little boat.
Oh, we've got that. We've got that. It's in the lounge. We've got that. The black and grey kind of grey. Yeah, it's cute, man.
Yeah, and so then Josh well, he didn't brought in, that's really extenuous. He brought to the table a weekend with his dad, who is
Uh,
called David, which for fans of Josh know that he did a whole, I think it's like I wouldn't say YouTube series, more of a Facebook series
yeah,
type.
I guess it was a Facebook series. It was great. I did an ep of that. His dad is so cute. When we were in the 7 Days tour once, and I was the only woman on the lineup,
Yeah.
and Josh's dad bought me a bunch of flowers he picked from his garden.
Oh.
Too cute.
And that's on Taskmaster itself. You always give something personal. So the common comical joke is a ring. Because he did
Yeah.
that. Because Romish did that in series 1 in the UK version, and I can't remember his name, but the boat did it in the first episode of the Danish version. And so it's a common trait, but this is more of a twist, because some people would get the joke and would understand who David is. And when I saw the image of him, he reminded me, and I don't know if this has ever made it to New Zealand, but there's a program called Brassic, which is about this guy that's in a load of trouble, and he has this angry farmer that has this like massive, and he looks a lot like David. I'm not saying that David's an angry farmer.
He's
He,
not. He's a happy farmer.
yeah, yeah. But that I thought that was up there with one of the best ones. And then we had Chris Parker. That when I was trying to write the notes, I wasn't 100% sure of, was it what was his brand, because I wasn't 100% sure what it was. Was it a holiday? Was it?
Wasn't it?
It was someone else's weekend.
Yeah, yeah. That he just had a whole bunch of vouchers, didn't he? Was
Yeah.
that one?
I mean,
And
well,
for
it was a letter, and some family had gone to there, and there, and he wanted to
that's right.
retract their steps. But
That's right.
which when trying to write notes on what it was a nightmare, because then you have to try and write down one of the titles, and you have to work out, is it going to be something that I can pronounce later on, which I've already learned it's not, because spelling and pronouncing aren't my forte. This is why I
That was,
write notes and
was
pretend
it
that.
Rotorua?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we had Paul Igor with a band.
Oh, the weekend.
Yes, yeah, which I've never heard of.
Oh, you never heard of the weekend? Then that would have made no sense to you whatsoever. I had heard of the weekend, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me either.
And then we had Coulda with something I like to call inappropriate. Because when you watch it with your children, it's always the best chance to shield your child's eyes.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right.
Uh,
Get the kids to make you a cup of tea.
yeah. So with the New Zealand version, is there a PG version yet
Of
of Taskmaster New Zealand?
like an edited differently.
Because in the UK we have Taskmaster, and then we have Taskmaster bleeped or PG, where it's the same program but
Ah,
edited for family audience. It's because then when it was originally on Dave, it meant that they could air it at pretty much any time of the day, because they had a version where it bleeped, removed some of the inappropriateness to make it family
I
friendly.
don't. I don't think we have got that, and I have to say I was quite surprised at some of the stuff they left in.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was like, wow, they left that in. You know, like even stuff that I was saying with gusto, going, fuck, they won't make the TV, and going, you know, because they left it in. So I guess that's their choice. You know, no, I'm pretty sure there's only one version though.
Yeah. And what time? Because in the UK we have Taskmaster at like 9 p.m, because then you can do whatever you want and say whatever you like, because it's
What time was it on, Dan? Taskmaster? 8:30.
because
Yeah.
I was speaking to Paul Williams about it, and we had a very heavily debate that he didn't know when the watershed was, because he knew there was a watershed, but he didn't know when it was. Do you have any clue when the watershed is basically the time where you're not allowed to swear or not allowed to say anything? So it's like, I always call it pre-kids going to bed.
Yeah, I mean, made Taskmaster in the assumption that it was probably about R13.
Yeah.
So I tried not to swear, but I did not succeed because, I'm quite a potty mouth, and under pressure, I was just like, there's no way I can't swear. So I thought, yeah, I mean, that's just how I am, really. I'm a bit sweary. I don't really mind that, but no, I assumed that it wouldn't be for really little kids, which is kind of a shame, actually, because, um, it's a task kind of play-based show when you think about it.
Yeah. Well, the Swedish version, and I'm gonna just say this from my knowledge, must be for families this time because they have a children's show where it's these two enthusiastic people because it's a kids show and they throw a party. So SVT is their main station. They're like their RBBC and so forth. And so they make a party of each of their shows. They did a best because it's called Bestie Test. They did a Bestie Test party, and so they got all the kids dressed up as the host and
Oh, that's serious.
and Sundin, and then they did their own. They did their own wax seals and biscuit. They did a wax seal and a biscuit, and they had like Taskmaster themed cakes and.
It's so great, eh? It's
Yeah.
insane, isn't it?
It is, and it's become such popular because Taskmaster's like popular. You can have weddings, parties, whatever, and people are now doing like camps like for children and
Wow. They should do like merch. They should do some merchandise.
yeah, and with the UK version, it's become so popular. They've released 2 books and 2 board games, and then and this might sound really weird, but I can't really point it out. But I have the Swedish Taskmaster book. Can't speak Swedish or read Swedish. I've just got it. It was available. It was available on Amazon UK, and I thought I'll get it.
If anyone understands something like that, I do. I really do, Tom. It's just, yeah, I do. Something you got to have.
Because it's because there's not much. And then I also have a Taskmaster themed mug. Which is it has the Frank Skinner task on to chuck the tea bag into the thing, which I'm not very good at because I'm a very clumsy person. So we shall move on to task number 1. Prove you are the smartest contestant, which is a very good idea, but it's also a good idea to humiliate people. We'll start off with Chris Parker. He got a massage from Paul. I don't know how that can make you think you're smart.
Well, because I think his take on it was that, well, I'll just be smart about this whole task and get something for me. Was I just asked me some questions I can't answer. But to be fair, that was like I said on the show, I got a lot of questions right, but then of course it doesn't make good TV to show that. But you just panic. Also, I actually did back my stuff to do quite well in the quiz, and
yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah. That should be Taskmaster's motto: panic.
It is. I mean, it's just, and the thing is too, you've got to just start. In a time restraint, you've just got to start doing something.
Yeah.
But you can't just go. You just go. I've just got to do something. So crazy.
And then we had Cuda speaking Maori, which for anyone that doesn't know, and you're watching me, so you should know, it's the I'm going to say the original language of New Zealand, which we'll get onto more towards the end because we've adapted here at TGM Production, which is just me. I like to sound posh. We've adapted a new format where at the very end, if I've got a New Zealand guest on, I witter onto them for a few minutes why I'm obsessed with New Zealand. So that's always at the end, so that people that can just skip to the end if they're interested in that, because it's always a bizarre thing for me to do because I've never been to New Zealand, but I'm somehow obsessed with it, which is an odd thing for me. Well, not really. I'm odd. I'm odd generally. And then Josh found the spelling errors in the task, which not many people actually. Well, Paul got it as well, but not many other people got the spelling errors, which I wouldn't have got either. So
I would. The thing is, it's another time. It's another one of those situations where I saw that. I saw the mistakes, and I went and came out somebody who's printed this task. And I honestly, because I am a bit of a grammar fiend, man, and I saw that straight away, and I went, "God, that's so dumb." Like in my head, I was like, "Oh God," and then that was it for me.
Yeah.
So that's another of those times where I just didn't think of that. I don't really think laterally at all. You know, I went, okay. Uh, honestly, yeah. And that's like also those moments too on the studio nights, you know, where you're watching and you just go, oh God, you know.
Yeah. And what is, because I think I must have asked someone this in the early days of my nonsense, because I call it nonsense. What is the task card made out of? Because the UK version, I think, is made out of card, but then when I watched series 1, it looked a little bit more flimsy. So what's the task card actually made out of?
I've got it somewhere. Quite thick paper, like thin card. Yeah, quite nice parchmenty, semi-rough paper, and it's a legit wax seal that can be really hard to get off. And it's print. It's exactly the same. It looks exactly the same as the UK one.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting, because a lot of people now know what the tasks are made. A lot of people now have gone and bought their own custom wax seals, and so I saw somewhere that there was someone had a wedding. They had a Taskmaster themed wedding, but they chose blue instead of red, and so they made their own wax seals on the envelopes, and all the envelopes for this wedding were all different tasks for the guests to do.
That's so great.
The people are very generally what I like to call geniuses. Well, I have a YouTube. One of my channels is called Online Taskmaster, where I have a lot of Taskmaster tasks I've created, and one of the ones I made, I've never worked out how to do it. It was try and get through a door without using your hands or your feet, and I was confused how I would do that, and then second of all, I was also confused how I would do that, and I wrote it, so I wouldn't even. So normally there's a solution to a task. Normally someone sort
You
of
just roll.
You must do, because
Just roll and folly.
it'd be weird. It'd be weird. It'd be a weird thing to watch. And then obviously, and then we had Paul Eagle finding the errors. So which meant that he was also clever. And then we move on to task number 2. This is the best team task of the series, which was drive 11 laps without leaving the card. Every lap, a new rule will be added. Each time that a rule is broken, 100 seconds will be added to your time. Now, it worked really well with you, Cutter, and Josh, because there was 3 of you. And as you already know, it didn't really work with Paul and Chris, because he crashed into the caravan. They had missed some ducks.
I did feel for Paul, though. He had quite a lot to do, driving, changing his shoes, picking up the task. We were lucky because we just got into a real, I was shoe girl, basically. Give me your shoes. I was swapping the shoes. I was accelerating when Koo was like changing his shoes. We had Josh, who's like, you know, outward shambles, inward quite methodical. You know, like he was one who thought to do the yelling and the tooting, so we wouldn't have to you know what I mean, at the same time, so I probably wouldn't have. But also there was it was so much fun, and we did those tasks last-ish in the recording, in the last week of recording, I think. And so I for one was just so grateful to be able to goof off with my mates and not on my own. Like I was almost hysterical with the company, you know. And by that stage, you know, we'd all been through it, and so plus we were all being really good about not talking about it. So there was this really cool camaraderie, you know, when we didn't talk about the task specifically, but we could talk about the experience, kind of. So it was great, you know. And I mean, it looks fun because it was so much fun.
Yeah, and we also had Josh, which for viewers of the TGM Empire will know, had his famous catchphrase, "Well, all right."
Well,
Uh,
all right.
which,
We all do that. Everybody does that now. Yeah, it's really funny. All our mates.
well, it was very popular, and so when I interviewed Josh, I thought it would be generally hilarious if I decided, because well, why not? I thought I made a YouTube short that was basically, and he just went along with it. I asked him, which was him saying, "Well, all right," as loud as possible, which, as of time of recording, is currently on 916 views.
Oh
So
my god.
it's him just turns his head, says it, and stands there for a second, and then that's it. So it is.
He is. I mean, he could almost say anything and be funny. He's just so great. He's a great human too. He's just one of the sweetest guys. He's
Yeah.
lovely.
And I think because of Taskmaster being this like global thing, as I've said, I think what someone should do, right, is they should. So there was a scene in Doctor Who, in the last episode of Doctor Who, where they had all the old companions come back to celebrate 100 years of the BBC and whatever, and they had all the companions, and they did a support group, which was all of them talking about their adventures in times of. And what I think should happen, which might be a very long shot, but I reckon they should do a Taskmaster support group where it's like a special episode where every contestant that's available, possible from every version, gets together and just talks about the
Oh,
experience.
honestly, so many people would watch that.
And
That's what you kind of want. You want to see, and because with a show like that too, even your average punter knows that there's heaps of stuff that doesn't make it. So people, I mean, when it's that popular, people want the extras. I'd watch that for sure. Like some bloopers with Greg, I've watched those. Because you just want to see those moments.
yeah, and is there any outtakes that could make their own outtakes blooper reel for the New Zealand version?
Yep. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, there's tasks that failed because there must be a couple of tasks that none of us did really well at.
Yeah.
Maybe, like, I think there was this Jenga tower one that I don't know, that never made it to TV, and when you don't get much time to talk about, and you don't know until after it's aired what doesn't make it, so you're not really together. Even though we did get together to watch the last episode, the 5 of us, which was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, there must be heaps, but it's also when someone looks like they might have hurt themselves, like they're really, like, I fell over, and they're like, they're not there to mock you or make you look bad. They're quite. What was quite cool is that the producers were quite true to the kind of ethos of the show. Is that even though you're making a bit of a dick at yourself, the producers were like, we're not there to make you look ugly or stupid or like super. If you really fall over, they're going to stop and help you. So and there's times, because it was really hot, it was just in this, it was beautiful, but it was over this swampy lake, which I cannot believe Josh got into. So it's a really hot, sweaty climate, so there were times we just had to break for waters and that. But there'll be moments. I don't know. I think there'll be lots of stuff that isn't necessarily humiliating, that's just funny, that we could watch.
Yeah, and I think that because we have Taskmaster UK has its own YouTube channel, and then there is a Denmark YouTube channel that's officially made by the official people, but no videos on the channel. We could someone, one of the heads of department could make a Taskmaster and Z YouTube channel, so we could put all these like deleted tasks and things that because it's like, we get it in the UK, but it's unfair on the other versions because they don't get the love on YouTube. They have like some blog uploading full episodes with bubbles over the top to get rid of.
Yeah.
I've seen that, and it's like, why would you want to add bubbles? But apparently, it's to stop copyright. So you can watch this task unfold, but see mini bubbles if float past your screen, which is just weird.
That'll drive you bonkers.
Yeah, it would do. And so then we go on to the third task, which is pull the rope to drop the duck. You cannot
Oh
enter
my
the
God.
house. Now, when you read this task, what was your immediate reaction?
I knew there'd be a clue somewhere. I didn't for a second think about the QR code. And then I started trying to, first of all, I went for the yellow buckets. And then I think I was just random from there. It was certainly I certainly didn't work out it was alphabetical. Even when I got the duck down, I don't think, I mean, I'd said duck had 3 letters, for God's sake. I don't think that was luck. I don't think there was method to it. I hadn't gone D-U-C-K, duck. I'd just gone.
And now what I'm about to say next is a reference to an episode, and it's an earlier episode to the UK version. But what size do you reckon the duck was?
Small.
Because John Kearns in the UK version didn't even know you could buy ducks that size.
Yeah, it's like a normal duck you get for the bath, isn't it? Usually in a set of 3.
Well, I was doing something. I do scouts in the UK, and when you get to explorers, you're like 14 to 18. And on my last night, I did a commode of different things and bits and bobs. And one of the ones I did was a Taskmaster task within it, and I bought, which I've used since, 25 mini ducks. And what I had to do, I had to Google images of Alex with a duck in his mouth or a duck near him to work out what size it was, because Amazon, you can get any size stuff. So there's an image of him in its mouth, and we had to get a tape measure out, and we had to measure it, and it's
Small, aren't they?
yeah. They're quite small. But I got them to I did a 2-part attack just to upset them. So they ran off to find the ducks that had been hidden, and then when they got back, each person got back, read the task, when you have to go and create it into a historical figure. But the timer, from the first person that read the task, the timer began. So each person that got back had less and less time
Oh, yuck.
to actually do it. And so I annoyed them, which was rather hilarious on my part. Which is what I love best about it. So, but ducks are very popular in the UK since Taskmaster. People don't buy the bath anymore. You can get like Disney ducks as well.
Yeah, we've got, oh yuck, this is gross. It's been in the sparkle. Yeah, we've got Disney ducks. This is a Chewbacca duck.
Wow.
It's pretty good, eh?
Yeah, you can just get ducks in all sorts. Taskmaster need to branch out to get these novelty ducks as well, not your.
No, I honestly, I'm not even kidding. I totally agree. Some really good merch like that.
And so then we had Cutter. She tried to cheat and then found the QR code, which was very lucky. But the best bit was we had Chris and Josh using a mirror. Did you think of going? Did you have any inkling afterwards that you should have gone to the shed?
You could ask me that about so many tasks. No. Wow. Did not occur to me at all that I could do something like that. No. I just went, okay, let's just pull the ropes, just pull the ropes.
Yeah, but I do think the mirror was a genius move, because that would have made it easier. But then, because when you found the duck, it then would have been confusing, because when you moved the mirror away to pull the string, you would have forgotten which bucket it was, because it was.
Yeah, Josh did that a few times, which was adorable and funny.
Yeah, there was more of the same thing. But I do think that task really did work, because it utilizes the bigness of the well, I'm going to call it a house, even though some people call it a ranch, and I have had it debunked that it's not really a ranch, it's just what they call it. But I do think that New Zealand house is the only one on Google Earth that you can't find. Because you Google it and you get so close, but then you get stopped by a bush.
Oh yeah, it's pretty. That's weird though, because there's a big lawn in front of it. But it's pretty rural. It's
Yeah,
beautiful. It's really gorgeous.
yeah. Someone was telling me that one of the production team was going to have a wedding there.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
think it's the wedding. I think actually when it's not being the Taskmaster House, I think it is a wedding venue.
which
It was amazing the first morning too, because you have to, where you pull up, you have to drive, so you know, down, you're out of sight of the cameras. And so you have to walk back up the drive. And just my first morning, all on my own, it was misty. And the Taskmaster House was there with the TM on the front of the thing, and the caravan over here, and the cow. And it was like, it reminded me of the first time I ever went to New York, like walking into a movie it was so cool. It was really, really awesome.
and I'm surprised that there haven't been any reports of a fan having a Taskmaster themed wedding in the Taskmaster house, because that would just be next level amazing.
I think that New Zealand's just garnering really for the most part big Taskmaster fans.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's still a slow process. Also, I don't know, Kiwis aren't that passionate. I mean, you know, we'll go, oh, where's the Taskmaster house? I was over there. I don't know if people get that excited about it. Maybe.
Well, in the UK, there's and I don't know it too much, but there's this person that's created a website called Taskmaster.info that breaks down every single episode of every single version ever, up to date on all the news. It has, like, every time there's a new version available, it's the whole website's laid out like a task. Uses the right fonts, has a biography of every single contestant ever, has links to every single contestant's social media present online, and where you can find out about them, and then it has even about the failed versions, and has about every single version, and then it has like all links to external stuff, and has on it. It has how many points everyone got, and who got more points in what, and what task was similar to what task in what versions.
Oh my God, it's a
And
lot.
yeah, it took them about 2 years to make,
Far out.
and they update it every single time there's a new episode. They watch the episode, write about it, and then they get what the title of the task is, how many points did that person get, and then what was their attempt,
Oh yeah.
and then write down who did better at the team tasks, or what's the ratio between that task and that task, and who and what. So this is the prize task, but which 4 other tasks were similar to this one prize task?
Holy moly, is that too much?
Uh, well, it could be.
Yeah,
It depends on how much free time that person has.
exactly.
Yeah,
None. They're too busy doing that.
and so we come to the live tasks. Were you interested in? Were you like really good at the live tasks, or were you one of those people where you panic because you've got less time than a pre-filmed task?
Yeah, no, yeah, I was a bit panicky in the live. It's quite, yeah, I did look forward to the live tasks. What's the live task of this one again?
This
It
one
was,
was
I had the toilet brush.
yeah, it was. That one's a really good one because even I was fooled.
Honestly, Tom, and that is when it's great to be wearing a big full skirt with a petticoat.
Yeah.
So turns out it was great.
Yeah, it went really well, and it's those type of tasks that work so well because it's like you can make it. It's just genius. Well, apart from the Chris, Josh, and Paul didn't do very well. They all got out in the first round. And I was a little bit worried when I was watching it for the first time, not when I was rewatching it for this, that the task would be over really quickly.
Yeah.
But then you and Cuda did very well.
Yeah, we did well. We thought that was one of the times that we thought Chris brought it up too, that they should have carried on. It should have been me and Koo against each other until we went out, because it was so funny to watch. You know, like, and if it had just been her and me against each other for a couple more rounds, that would have been really funny too.
Yeah, and then and there was, I don't, you'll probably remember this more than me because I'm only half remember, but there was a task where you all had been given the same object, and well, the same object but a different size, and you had to you didn't know what size each one had, and then you had to see who had the yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that one. Because what's interesting about that test is that its original life was in Norway. It was a carrot in it was carrots in a box. But then what's even more interesting about that is its original life in the UK was from a different program called 8 Out of 10 Cats.
Oh, I love that show.
For Sean Locke and John Richardson, but it's carrot in a box. That's what the task.
That's right.
So it was carrot
That's
in a
right.
box. And then it turned into Norway to make it into a live talent, and then New Zealand then adapted it, changed it, and made it more unique.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know it was originally from Sean Locke. That's awesome. That's good to know.
And it's also a good tribute to the late great
Yeah,
Sean Locke.
100%.
Yeah, because it is like when you Google Britain, it's one of those like, oh, an American reacts to carrot in a box, or an American reacts to the best of Sean Locke, and some obnoxious American, usually overly excited, and then does that, and actually doesn't find it funny because he doesn't understand what he's laughing at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
You get them too often on YouTube. It's an American company, but it was also a really good task because it gave the opportunity for the fans of toilet brushes time to bring more fans to the show, because there must be some toilet brush fanatics out there.
Well, you'd be surprised how very harsh and spiky the new ones are. I'd forgotten. I was like, okay, I'm doing pain for laughs.
Yeah.
It was a real choice moment too when I made a choice to go, am I going to squat and let this drop out? And then I went, yes, I'm going to do it, even though it's probably the most unladylike thing I've ever done on TV. It was also fun.
Yeah. And what was your favourite live task to actually compete in?
Oh, definitely the when we had to play battleships.
Yeah.
So we had to do live battleships, but just because we came up with that genius idea of lying on top of each other, Josh, then me, then Kura, and I could just hear Chris and Paul just could not work out why they kept saying, and so it was just, and then I knew this is going to look so ridiculous. Like, I felt bad for him. He's probably pretty squished there.
And with obviously you mentioned that you and Josh had mentioned and Paul had mentioned it, but you would all watch the final episode together. Had you watched the other episodes from home as well to see what?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, like it's, we're close. Laura, Daniel, and I are really good buddies, and I get, you just know everybody. So, in some ways, as a Taskmaster fan, watching the first New Zealand episodes, I was like, it's almost like I was too close to it to tell if it was good or bad, because I wanted it to be good.
Yeah.
And I think it is really good, but when you know everybody and you love the show, I just had a bit too much invested in it. So when it rated really well and it was popular, I was really pleased.
Yeah, it's really popular, because it's like you it airs and then you wait a couple of hours just to let the New Zealand people enjoy it, and then when you then go on social media and online and see the amount of fans, it's just incredible. Because Sam Smith, not the singer, which was the first joke I made when I interviewed Sam Smith. We were when you watch it back on the screen, it said the episode of the podcast FET Sam Smith in brackets, not the singer, close brackets.
You've got to. Even though there must be like 5 million Sam Smiths out there.
And he's really involved within the fans as well. Yeah. And he gives you all the tidbits and extra facts. And what's really interesting about Sam is that the Avalon loved him so much, they kept hold of him, because he's going to be the writer and the warm-up for the Australian version.
Yeah, he's doing it now, I think. Yeah,
which is like both bonkers and mad, because it's like you never expect. I'm going to say small, because it's a small compared to all the other versions that have aired. I mean, apart from Quebec, because that's inside of Canada. But I think New Zealand is like the smallest country to have it.
For sure. We were really pleased to have had 3 series before Australia. That was also cool for us, because usually New Zealand, we quite often do stuff with or off the back of Australia. So as I was really pleased to be on, series before Australia even did it.
Yeah, and there was people like speculating what could happen if they did an Australian version. And the one thing that really funny is not so long ago, they had a contestant on the Australian version of Mastermind who did Taskmaster as a chosen subject, and they had a lengthy conversation about why there should be an Australian version.
Ah,
And I don't think the host knew about it, but and then it's happened, and it's really interesting because people would have assumed it would have been Adam Hills to host it because of Adam Hills is like global, but then obviously you don't really want to. He's like more famous in the UK at the moment than he is in Australia because of the last.
is it who is hosting it? Is
It's
it
it's Tom. I'm gonna say it's
Gleeson?
Tom Gleeson, I think, who also does Hard Quiz.
He does too, yeah, Tom Gleeson.
Yeah, he is very very funny. Hard Quiz
Yeah.
is another good program that you should all watch. Yeah, it's very good. But are you paying attention? And then is another good one, and that also featured Paul Williams on it because he was a guest quiz
Yeah, I
master.
saw that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was quite good, and it's quite nice how the show's popular enough now to do crossovers and cross.
Yeah, it's cool because we do Have You Been Paying Attention here as well.
Yeah, and I think that show works really well. So I was once because people used to upload it to YouTube, and I was once watching it in one of my lessons. Obviously, it was before the lesson had begun. I'm not a maverick. I don't do my work. And the teacher comes past and says, "Is there any interesting news?" Which I was first thinking, is he looking at the same thing I'm looking at? And I went, no. And then he just walked off because I don't think he was looking that I was watching a satirical panel show. It was it was just really baffling. And so the winner of the episode was Chris Parker, which will
Yes.
I'll give a round of applause. So now we come to the moment of a show where I get to indulge in the nonsense, and I get to tell a New Zealand comedian why I'm obsessed with their country. So here's what happened. So I first watched Taskmaster New Zealand, and then I got addicted, right, to New Zealand itself. So I know.
Oh, it was from Taskmaster, not before.
Not before, no. Before I was quite normal, but then I watched it, and I think I might have got a little bit bonkers. Well, I was a little bit bonkers before, but so I know. Well, I won't do it now because I'll make a fool out of myself. But I know a bit of the intro to the national anthem,
Ah,
right? And I know a majority of the English bit because you're more likely to understand the English bit, right? Because it's Maori is another language in it. So it's anyway. And then I've seen most New Zealand comedy programs. So I've seen Patriot
yeah.
Bay. I've seen 7 Days. I've seen that, and when I do like when I run stuff, I make sure there's some element of New Zealand involved. Just because then I get to and one of the things I'm passionate about is TV. Obviously we can tell because I'm here right now doing this. And one of the programs that I quite like is the New Zealand version of Play School, um, which is very obscure because it ended like decades ago. Uh,
Oh,
and,
that's
and,
cool.
and, and I and I keep on telling people about it, and majority of conversation. And one of the things I'm attempting to do, but Duolingo are a nightmare at doing it. I'm on the road to try and learn some Maori,
Great.
and so
That's
I
so great.
and so I watched. So there's Duolingo was supposed to be adding it, but they've been working on it for 2 years. This one woman who was on the news about it, she was very enthusiastic about it. I reckon after she made that, she just didn't bother with it ever again because they announced it 2 years ago. They've not done anything with it,
Ah,
and it's just been because it was one woman doing it herself. She was
wow.
she was translating it and writing it and making sure that it was a healthy program. But there's a book on Audible which is How to Learn Maori, and it's 100 hours.
Yeah, we've got cool ones too. My husband works in mental health, so he speaks a bit of te reo. So we've got lots of cool books
Wow.
about it. And yeah, and like these little books which are cool because like they're kind of kids books, but they're really cool in terms of learning about Māori, and they've each got a little bit of te reo, which is Māori in
Yeah,
them. So as a whole, in New Zealand, we're doing really good with our well, we could always do better,
yeah.
but we're pretty good. You know, I think we're going to legally change New Zealand to New Zealand Aotearoa so that it's always linked to, you know, that. And yeah, it's
And it's
yeah.
really interesting because because Britain, the UK, has Scotland and Ireland and Wales, it's got its own selection of things. And what's really fascinating that the government in Wales are trying to fund programs that are all in Welsh to try and bring back the Welsh
Right.
language. So
Right.
Kerry Pritchard McLean is a Welsh comedian who doesn't speak a lot of Welsh, but it is a key ambassador. She made a Radio Wales sitcom called The Learners about a bunch of people that are trying to learn Welsh.
Yeah, great.
And then they made their own Welsh version of Gogglebox recently, where it's all in Welsh. And then when you YouTube it, people are trying to get it out there, and TG4 are a Irish channel that are supporting Junior Eurovision and getting the artists to sing in Irish, and that's what's
Great.
fascinating about New Zealand as well, because you can tell that it's the government that are aiming for this, because every program you watch, apart from Patriot Brain, because it's Bill Bailey, they all try and speak a little bit of Maori to get it
Yeah,
in
we
your
do.
head, that this is. We're not trying to force you to learn it, but we would want you to remember your heritage of where you've come from.
Tom, that's it, 100%. And I think that, you know, we've got a lot better than we were. You know, I'm in my 50s, and when I went to school in the South Island in the 70s and 80s, there was no option to learn te reo. It was, you know, I learned French and Japanese. It wasn't an option, and now it's a big option in most schools, and it's really important, you know, as a European, to respect the people who were here before, you know. And I think, you know, we've got a long way to go, as most people have, but we're pretty good at it here. We do respect our culture, and we're proud of it.
Yeah, and then what also made my obsession a little bit gone too far was I used to host a radio slot on my college radio, and the bloke that ran it let me do whatever I liked. So I said to him, I would have played the telethon song, the New Zealand telethon song. So he played it. He let me do it. Yeah, I know it's very shocking. And then I played the national anthem as well. I mean, he let me run amok.
Do you mean thank you very much for your kind
Yeah,
donation? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's
and
more repetitive than Small World.
that's been stuck in my head forever.
Oh, you
And
poor thing.
it's probably the most watched thing I've watched on YouTube. I mean, I could say I blame Taskmaster, but it was sort of a blessing because then I wouldn't have been mad. Because then I also then learned that Manx, which is for the Isle of Man, there's a whole primary school that only teaches in Manx because it's a language
Oh,
that's dying. It's on the verge of death, and so
I've never heard of it, I have to say.
and this one teacher cares so much about it, he's trying to save it. And then the kids are even teaching the parents the language now
Yeah.
because it's dying out, and that's what's really frightening for these people. So Cornish, which because Cornwall used to be
Right.
its own thing, and then it got invaded, and anyway, that it isn't. It's on the red list of things that are about to die, but because of that, they're so passionate, and because of what we've got now, it's on the up. Because there was a film called The Fisherman's Friend, and they had a part when they sang their national anthem, because obviously because it used to be its own thing, they have Cornwall has their own national anthem that's in Cornish, and they try and
Yeah,
bring
right.
it, and it's really fascinating that
Yeah, it's cool too. And you know, when times are so tough, you know, with whatever's going on, sometimes it's really important to look back, you know, instead of looking forward all the time. And I don't know. I'm glad that New Zealand as a whole is pretty respectful like that.
Yeah, and I try and well, to the many people that would listen to my rambling of utter nonsense, like talking about Dixon and Doc Green, that was the first ever crime drama to ever be invented in 1955. I end up telling them about New Zealand, and I end up spending a good 20 minutes just drilling in the whole thing. I end up talking about Maori very quickly. It takes me like, I don't know, 5 maybe 6 seconds to get there. Uh,
Yeah.
and so I feel like because I must be the only person talking about it. I feel like I'm a sort of like a local local ambassador. I might
Yeah, it's cool.
I might know those people. I can't remember what they're called, but the people that are in the big buildings. If someone from a said country's done something wrong, they can go to them. I can't remember what they're called.
Oh,
But
asylum.
no, some sort of. It's like an ambassador, but it's not. It's
Oh.
I don't know. Anyway, that's not the point. I feel like I'm one of those. I don't know
Consulate?
what they're always in a building with the flag outside of it.
Do you mean consulate?
Uh,
Surely.
I must do. I, it'll come to me at some point, but it's one where like you can if you hide in the building, technically
Embassy.
embassy. That's it. Yeah, there we go. I feel like I'm the bloke that lives inside the embassy. Even though to round this segment off with a perfect joke, I've never been to New Zealand in my life. There we go.
That's not a joke. Not yet.
I,
How old are
I,
you talking?
I know so much, but I've never been. That's always whether. Well, it's on my list, and I was telling one of my relatives, and then it turned out me grandparents. It's on their list of places they want to go as well.
Oh, you should go with them. Cute.
And so I'll possibly go, and because I know because I've interviewed now most. I say this to people now. I've interviewed nearly most of the New Zealand comedy scene because the joke is the comedy scene small. I like running with the joke. If someone says, if you got to go anywhere, where would you go? And I always go New Zealand because I know most of the comedy scene.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but yeah, well, thank you for doing this, and thank you guys
Tom.
for watching. If you want to see more Taskmaster World, well, you're in the right place. We'll be reviewing Taskmaster UK Series 14, Episode 6 soon. Brand new announcement whilst we're at it. We've had Taskmaster World, where we talk about the international versions of Taskmaster. We've had Gogglebox World, where we talk about the international version of Gogglebox. I admit that. And now we've got a brand new channel, which is going to be like this channel, but more of a parody, take the mickey out of my own work. It's Bake Off World, where I talk about the international version of Bake Off, from Japan to Brazil to New Zealand to Australia to America to Ireland. And it's all going to be serious, very serious. There'll be no baking involved. I might bring the objects you use in baking, but I might never actually use it for the object because I've had horrific experiences with it where I was in a lot of trouble. But that's another problem. That was another dynamic for another day that will probably haunt me for the rest of my life. But anyway, guys, thank you guys for watching. Oh, we forgot one format point. Right. So this Ed Gamble does a thing on his podcast where he rates it. He said where he gets the guests to rate their experience on the Taskmaster podcast from 1 to 5. How would you rate your experience on the Taskmaster World, the podcast?
From 1 to 5, I'd give it a 4.8, and I'm taking off the little points because it's quite early in the morning here.
Oh, there we go. There we go. See, I always ask that question and never know what to say next to make it smooth. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching. And remember, keep tasking. Bye.
Hello everyone, please subscribe to Taskmaster World.